Hello, welcome to my channel. We've got the Page of Wands this week, and I'm going to quickly talk about, well, I've got quite a personal take on this card. I'm in like a mini burnout at the moment, and reconnecting to this card has felt like a really healing thing to do. So I'm going to talk about that before I go on to the Kate Bush song. So I have got the Thoth card here. I love the Thoth pages because they show the energy, the power actually of reconnecting to this innocence, childlike place. Some decks, I don't think I've got any of these decks because I don't like this, but some decks call the page apprentice or student instead, but I really don't like the hierarchy that is implicated in that. So I can see that maybe student or apprentice is used to avoid thinking that page only applies to you if you're young, or that it is a gendered card. But I think it is important to remember that we don't graduate out of this energy, and we wouldn't want to, because it is a real kind of connection to spirit, a powerful force. With wands, I mean, you can see it's particularly appropriate for me saying I'm in burnout, because it is about our inner fire, our passion, what motivates us to stay alive, even our soul's calling or whatever. Could be a relationship, but for me at the moment in my time of life, it feels like it usually comes up about creativity. And it was a creative wound that prompted me into burnout. I was part of a writing group that was really toxic for me. It triggered a lot of old trauma I had around being silenced and misunderstood, which I think lots of, autistic people will relate to. I know indeed anyone that's had any kind of trauma experience. It wasn't a supportive group. And I've been thinking a lot about what I found so difficult and why I needed to exit for my own safety and to stop my enthusiasm for poetry being extinguished completely. But and I think it relates to this kind of page energy, in that when I first started my poetry course, probably about 4 years ago, so I've always written poetry, but I didn't ever really share it. And I had about 10 years ago, I was writing songs. And when I started that beginner's course, it was like so exciting to be sharing stuff, and everyone was really supportive, and there was this lovely energy. And then I think as you get like more experienced, you notice there's, and this is me as well, so I take responsibility for this, but there is like a competitiveness. So you get to a point where you feel like, your poetry is really improved, but there's still really not the outlets for publishing your work that maybe you hoped. And, there'll be like thousands of submissions to journals, and, they'll only take a handful. And it's frustrating for everyone. And I think that has bred like a unhelpful and unhealthy environment where people aren't wanting to support each other. There's a lot of gatekeeping, there is quite a bit of cliquiness, and there isn't the support and the adventure. And that, I think if you're at all sensitive, you can feel crushed in that competition, and you can almost get sucked in to that mindset. And the sort of things that I was criticised for in my own work, that it wasn't sophisticated enough, it was too childlike. I mean, those are the sort of things that normally when someone calls my work childlike, I take it as a compliment, but they definitely didn't mean it as a compliment. It was then that linked, I felt it was quite an ableist kind of link to my autism, and So it's been a lot to process. It's been really difficult. And a lot of it has been about me reaffirming and remembering my childlike, and, you know, it was a vulnerable piece of work that I shared, and that actually vulnerability is a really good thing in any artwork as well. I'm just going to quickly show you the Osho card and read what Osho says about this energy, because that, I mean, if you know any of Osho's writings or the deck, you'll know what Osho's outlook is about ego and anyone thinking they have sort of graduated beyond beginner level. So this is, I'll just read what he says. So he calls it playfulness. Or whoever created this deck calls it playfulness. And this is what Osho, this is the writing that they've used. So he said, the moment you start seeing life as non-serious, a playfulness, all the burden on your heart disappears. All the fear of death, of life, of love, everything disappears. One starts living with a very light weight, or almost no weight. So weightless one becomes, one can fly in the open sky. Zen's greatest contribution is to give you an alternative to the serious man. The serious man has made the world. The serious man has made all religions. He has created all the philosophies, all the cultures, all the moralities. Everything that exists around you is a creation of the serious man. Zen has dropped out of the serious world. It has created a world of its own, which is very playful, full of laughter, where even great masters behave like children. And, you know, that's what I want to hear at the moment. It is, in a way, it's about not that you graduate out of the page, but actually you go more towards it, more towards that child energy, more towards that curiosity. And yeah, I think our society is bogged down by a seriousness and a competitiveness. So anyway, let's go to the Kate Bush song choice from Kick Inside. It is saxophone song, so I've chosen the lyric, "You'll never know the poetry you've stirred in me." I quite liked that lyric because it related to my feeling that Kate Bush has been this role model for me, this inspiration for me from since I was a child, and that I suppose I liked the sense of the poetry as well, of course, and that maybe my love of poetry has, and music as well, has stemmed from that. I am just going to read what she has said about saxophone song. So she said, I wrote saxophone song because for me the saxophone is a truly amazing instrument. Its sound is very exciting, rich and mellow. It sounds like a female. I like the, it's a very romantic song, isn't it? You can imagine her in this smoky bar with this good-looking saxophonist. It is, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to link her live recording of this song, and I'm also going to, I was looking at cover versions of this song because I was thinking of also how a cover version sort of relates to this song and the page energy of being inspired by someone else to then create your own version of that. And I think I've found a particularly nice cover version as well. The saxophone is interesting in this because I sense, maybe I've got no way of proving this, but I sense that Kate Bush composed this on the piano and then the saxophone was added afterwards, because it almost, I don't know how I feel about the saxophone in it, because sometimes it almost competes with the piano part. There's something kind of clashing about it. Not that that's not intentional. The saxophone is a really difficult instrument, I think, to add into any pop song because it can sound quite cheesy. but it can also sound really beautiful. But it is it's finding that fine line between something that could border on the sentimental, or it's almost too rich for its own good sometimes. And I notice what good saxophonists often do is they bring like a rough sound into that more of a jazz sound into the instrument to counterbalance that sweetness, which can feel a little cloying. I think that's the main thing that I have to say about the song. This is, again, I think it's from her 1979 tour, this picture. Very similar actually to the one that I used for Night of Wands, which I'm not that sure about. But I liked the redness of this, which seemed quite fiery to me. And, you know, Kate Bush is a Leo. I think she's very much... Princess of Wands is in the Leo part of the Deccan wheel. I think it's Cancer, Leo and Virgo it stretches across. So there is that energy, I think especially early on in her career, there is that Leo fiery energy to a lot of what she sings. So it felt like a good fit. Okay, I think that's it. If you've got, as always, really happy to read any comments you have about this, about the deck, maybe about your favourite page of wands in any decks you have. And thanks as always for watching. Goodbye.